Kidnapped, walking the scene, reviewing old flicks from the 90s. So keen, the VHS Club, they're the talk of the town. Breaking it down, spreading nostalgia all around. Moving and grooving to the synth-pop sound. Their insights so fresh, painting pictures profound. From Pulp Fiction to Clueless, they know it all. The genuine love for movies stands tall. Unfolding memories on that VHS screen, talking about classics like you've never seen. Katie with her charm, Matt with that wit. Together they make the VHS Club legit.
Welcome back to the VHS Club! Spirit fingers! Doc, where are your spirit fingers?
These aren't spirit fingers. These are spirit fingers, and these are gold.
We are ready. We are punchy. We are ready. We are back in the year 2000. We're talking about Bring It On. Bring It On. Oh, it's been brought in.
You know what's funny? The It's Been Brought line that we also remember is actually Bring It On too.
Yeah, I know. I
It's
was
actually
really
not
sad
in
when they
this
were
one.
saying it back and forth, and I was like, "Come on!" And they no.
Yeah,
it didn't
it's
happen.
actually Bring It On too. But that again, we were talking pre-show about the things from this movie that we still say to this very day, and it's already been brought. It's definitely something I still say to this very day.
Oh my gosh. I never thought that cheerleading movies would be so much fun, but they really are. Now, like immediately, as I always do, the second I finished this, I was like, well, now I need to watch Fired Up. That's my next one. I don't know if that falls within.
I forgot about Fired Up. Oh
It's,
my
are
God.
you
Katie and
fired
I-
up? I'm fired up.
Katie and I
Yes.
love that one.
Yeah.
We thought it was so funny. I hope it still holds up.
I hope it does. Well, we get started.
This one mostly held
mostly
up.
held up.
Yeah,
All right, Nat,
I'd
I'm
say
gonna
it
look up.
mostly held up.
I'm gonna look
There
up
was
Fired
some
Up,
pro-
and you talk about the
2009.
movie. 2009. Darn it,
2009.
sort of falls outside. I might have to do that one for fun, just
Yeah,
for
we can do
myself.
whatever
Fired
we
Up
want.
is
Our
so
podcast.
good.
Oh my
Just so good. But yeah, in a way, to me, I think it's still held up because I have a direct like correlation to these things. Now these guys are like way after I was out of the business, but some things just never change. And I remember at the time watching this with my best friend Ash, and actually
Spock.
she cheered like 15 years after I did, and still a lot of the things still held up. Like, so it's funny. I bet you if we were to find a cheerleader now, or just remember what I watched on Netflix like 3 years ago, 4 years ago when it was all the rage, some of the stuff still held up.
Yeah.
Like it's still very much the same. Like, so I guess some of the culture hasn't changed at all.
For
Yeah.
us
It
as
felt-
Canadians, this was not a part of our high school culture at all.
Not
So
even
when
kinda.
I saw this movie, I'm like, is this even real life? Like, is this totally fiction? Do people actually do this? And then later, I had met people who, or actually around the same time, who did competitive cheerleading, but it was outside of school. It was like an extracurricular activity. It's like I did karate and ballet and they did cheerleading.
Yeah.
You know, so but it was never anything that was part of our school culture. So it was really like watching this movie was out of this world for me. I was just like, when I was younger too, I was like, this isn't real life. This is just a movie.
Although I love that in this movie, so in like every other like a typical American movie that Canadians were watching, there's always like the iconic football team and the football player who's in love with like the head cheerleader and we were always like, wow, that must only exist in pretend. But in this movie, you have like the amazing cheerleading squad and the football team is terrible. Like they're like, I was like, oh, we had like rugby teams and soccer teams and hockey, but they were not even like you said, Nat, they weren't really like entirely part of the school. They were like also like one of the town teams. Like it was not this vibe at all. So I agree. No. It was a novel thing.
And you know what's funny is cheerleader as a whole is a very American thing. And that's because of football, really. Like, and then later basketball, and then, you know, most of the other sports, cheerleaders don't even go, right? So it's kind of funny, but yeah, that is the thing. And I guess the thing that's, you know, when you're saying it doesn't seem like real, it's funny to me because competitions, we had one national competition, but it wasn't ESPN and it wasn't this thing. And it was really just part of Spirit Camp, which they did talk about Spirit Stick a little bit in the movie, which to me was hilarious because Spirit Stick was a thing back when we went, but it wasn't
real?
Yeah, that's legit. Now dropping it on the ground thing, that's a whole different vibe. But Spirit Stick was for real. And my school, we won Spirit Stick at camp. So we had Spirit Stick, you know, for our division. But it's funny that the ESPN part of it didn't happen until like maybe later, 4 or 5 years after I got out of high school.
Yeah, like the cheerleaders that I knew in Montreal were for the football team, like for our Canadian League football, like American
CFL teams.
Football. Yeah. Like it's where a lot of your college kids come up here to, because it's a bit of a different sport. Like it's still American style football, but it's
got different rules.
There's different rules. The field's bigger and longer, so it's a bit harder. There's less stoppage too in the play. So a lot, like some athletes come up here because the NFL will like grab a whole bunch of, especially American students that trained in Canada. So it's quite common.
A couple of my friends from UH, they went to go play in Canada first because they didn't get drafted initially. And one ended up playing for the Eagles. The other one ended up playing for the Broncos. But they initially went to go to Canada first because they weren't immediately drafted. They wanted to stay in shape and try again, you know, next time the draft came around. So,
yeah, it happens. So we have these types of cheerleaders. And I've seen them in action, like in practice and stuff. And I think what blew my mind the first time I saw it, like, and in this movie, I'm like, this is a high risk sport. Like,
this is a really high risk sport. It's very true.
I'm like, I danced and I did ballet, and I frequently cracked my toes back into place and taped them while they bled into my shoes. And I wasn't going head first into the ground from 30 feet in the air. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when I was in school, we weren't allowed to do higher than a 2-man mount.
Okay.
And then like even when you would kind of cheat and do like 2.5, like you have one person sitting on your shoulders and you put another person on top of them, you could get in a lot of trouble for that. Like that was considered going 2.5 and not a full 2-person. So, and you'll see in the picture that Katie put up, the girl who I'm holding up, that's my friend CJ, Colleen, right? Yeah. Like that was it. And CJ used to stand on my shoulders. And that was the extent of it, right? Okay. And then the guys are in the back line. We were all from different sports. And to Paul's comment, like, didn't have male cheerleaders in their school. Actually, we were like some of the first guys on the East Coast to get back. Now, in the 50s, very normal.
Yeah.
I feel like when Vietnam happened, Korea and Vietnam started happening semi back to back, guys came back and they were like, now all of a sudden too machismo to be, you know, Spirit Club, which eventually became cheerleaders, right? So in 84, which you see pictured myself, Jeff, and Ralph, and then we had one other guy. We were like the only guys on the East Coast in high school cheerleading. And I know this because when we went to Spirit Camp, is basically the 7 of us total.
It was like it was literally the movie girls. Fired Up. It was just you.
So that movie's for real life.
100%. So it was, we were sort of, so the college had already started to do the comeback, you know, with co-ed cheers,
Mhm.
but high school not at all. So I don't say we started it, but we were some of the first in the East Coast. And then I think that
Definitely.
following years, more and more schools added, and not because they knew who we were or anything. It's just because I guess during the time that competitions was slowly coming out, you needed people strong enough to hold up the
Yeah.
mounts. And
Yeah, we
that's
Well,
were
when
now they
guys
do
got
all
back
these.
in.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do all these crazy aerials in the movie. Like the
Yeah.
choreography for the routines is insane. And
Yeah.
I'm assuming because at one point at the end of the movie when they all go to the finals, the nationals, and you see their final performance, Katie's like, "Where did all those other
Yeah.
cheerleaders
Their
come from that's on
final
the team?" There's like
the final
the
performance.
30 more
Yeah.
people than there were on the team throughout the whole movie. I'm like, that's because those are the real cheerleaders and not the actors.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Like the
They
actors
definitely
just
had to
weren't
bring
in
in real
high
ones.
school. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like that was definitely all real cheerleaders
Yeah.
in the end scenes. And now
It's so funny to see like what these guys do even today as their stunts, because like we thought we were cool. One of our biggest stunts was like CJ used to stand on my shoulders and the people in the back would Kristen's hands, and then she would fall into the basket and they throw her back up, and then I would sort of catch her by the knees, and then she would finish her move, and we thought that was dangerous. And then
It
when you
probably
see on
was.
ESPN,
it
and
was.
they're throwing people like literally 3-4 stories in the air, twirl, super gator, Sukahara twist, land, and we're like, what? Like, so yeah,
It's
it completely leveled up between
yeah.
say 90 and 2000 in win cycle.
Oh, I like honestly, it's a hardcore sport, and it's
Mhm.
like I find it's like equivalent in danger and risk to say the first time you do aerial ski jumps. This is like the summer version of that. It's like
Yeah.
who's like I'm gonna put my kid all the way up an ice hill and have them shoot down off a
Nice.
ramp. Like that's crazy. And I know they practice in water and stuff like that. It's not actually like we're just gonna put little kids up there and see how they fare. Like let's train them like that. There's a whole thing to it, but no, the athleticism of cheerleading is. Anyways, when this movie came out, it was eye-opening for me to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh wow, crazy!"
It is pretty cool.
It is really
Yeah.
cool, and I feel like this movie, and it's funny because we just got off doing like a dance movie mini series, but this movie and kind of the late 1990s into like the early aughts time frame had a lot of movies that like really kind of surfaced like how cool gymnastics, cheerleading, dance, like all of these were at the high school and college level, and like brought us a ton of incredible like actors and choreography and dance scenes that kind of, not that they hadn't been there before, but it was it was sort of a resurgence in seeing this, and this movie is in a weird way kind of part of that vibe. Like you have cheerleading, which hadn't really been featured a ton in movies prior, so, and it's probably, as we were talking,
Well,
like,
not in this sense.
it's
Not in
probably
an
like,
athletic
yeah,
sense.
it's probably way like above what actually would happen necessarily in the high school level. Like this is obviously choreographed. This is like a really, a hugely talented group of people that are putting this on, that are probably well beyond a high school level. But yeah, I like, it does take you into a world. It makes me think sort of like totally different, but it in the same vein. Not that I'm comparing people to dogs, but how what Best in Show does with Best in Show, where it takes you into like the world of the group, like how intense and crazy like dog shows and dog grooming are. This takes you into like kind of the intensity and the like craziness of cheerleading competitions in a way that we hadn't really seen before. And yet in a fun high school way, like it still kind of pokes fun at it and the characters make it feel very, it pulls it off. We were talking at the very, very beginning, like whether or not this movie holds up. This feels like a believable high school movie to me. Like I was kind of finishing high school as this movie started, like right as this movie came out. It was my last year of high school. And it felt like Kirsten Dunst feels like a high schooler. She was a teenager when she made this. Gabrielle Union was not, but everyone else for the most part was. It felt believable from that context, and it felt like it holds up in that you believe that they are high school students. It feels like the dialogue that they have fits the era, like it feels very high school all the way through.
The thing that I think, the reason why I think we saw a lot of these sort of movies at that time frame is we were starting to come to terms with what was sort of the beginnings of, say, toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't, let's not
Yeah,
kid
we're not
ourselves.
out of there. Yeah,
We're not
but
out of
maybe
yet. We're
eventually.
not even close. But the subject was sort of coming up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I like, reading Josh saying that, they didn't have male cheerleaders yet. This was still working its way across the country. In the urban areas, or the more, say, like normal, I won't say normal, that's a mean, the more big cities, right? Your New Yorks, your Houstons, your Seattles, your Los Angeles, San Francisco, sort of, etc. 10 years ahead, right? They're just naturally are,
Yeah.
just because, they're epicenters of bigger mixed cultural things, and this was sort of going on. The other thing that also happened during this time frame is, if you go, say, 92 to like 2003, literally the best portion of music ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
ever. I love me some 80s. Let's not kid ourselves. But music in that time frame was phenomenal, right? And MTV in that time frame also phenomenal. So a
Yeah.
lot more people were being introduced to the world of dance, no pun intended. Even that contest started about that time.
Mm-hmm.
And you started to see competitive dancing, competitive breakdancing, competitive
Yeah.
cheerleading, drill teams, competitive drill
Yep.
teams.
Yeah.
All these things start to come to fruition at this time because the music was ripe for it. You know what I mean? I don't know
Yeah.
how much I remember doing our routines to hair metal. uh Hard. Okay.
Amazing.
Flamethrower, when Flamethrower came out from Jay Giles' band, that was what our routines were too. And we were like, yo, this is cool. And then, like, sort of hip hop comes up a little bit. We started to creep in, but we had It's Tricky. And it's dope for a routine, not the dopest dance song, right? But that was the extent of what we had available to us at the time. And then, so yeah, I think a lot of this started to come out. And also, let's not forget, because we're old and we forget about this, but the internet was
Yeah.
just banging at this time.
Yeah.
So the ability for different cultures and different moves and dance capabilities and stuff
Yeah.
spread. So when they went to go do their routine, what did she say? Let's go check out a wide variety of dances instead of the
Yeah.
standard cheer moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was real at that point because we had internet at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love, again, another villainous redhead in this movie. As
Who has
always.
no name? She has no. We never know
Big
her
Red.
name. Big Red. No, but like we don't know her actual name throughout the whole movie. It's irrelevant.
Big Red Sloan is her actual name.
Yeah.
And I forget why
Yeah.
I know that.
I mean, it's not, but okay.
So she goes to a school in LA, an urban school, and steals all of the routines from a public school and uses them for their private school, which was the same school as in Buffy. It looked like Sunnydale.
It's filmed at a university. Hang on, I'll pull it up.
Like, it had the arches and the terracotta roof and the columns. Like, it looked exactly the same on the outside.
Maybe someone in the live studio audience can fact check it for us, but I do know that it was filmed at
There
a
was a lot of
university.
Buffy reference.
It was filmed at San Diego State University.
Oh,
Well, it
that
looks
makes
like
so
Buffy
much sense now. I've been to SDSU many a times, partially because I go to San Diego Light, but also at UH they were our rivals for some sports. So I've been there many a time. So yeah, that makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, so when Big Red graduates from high school, she passes on the torch to Tori, who is now the new head cheerleader. And a new girl in school, I was just going to call her Faith.
No, Eliza.
She is Faith on Buffy.
Is her real
Eliza's
name.
her real life name, Missy.
Eliza
Missy.
Dushku. Missy.
I love
Missy.
Eliza
wait.
Dushku. She
Missy
always is badass.
Pant one.
Oh yeah,
It's Pantone.
Pantone. Yeah,
Oh,
Missy. Are they
yeah.
supposed to be twins, or like they're supposed to be the same age, right?
It seems that
yeah,
they're
it's
in the
true.
same grade. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in the same grade. So I think they're supposed to be twins. And listen, for me at this particular time, there was two queens in the planet. That was Jessica Alba and Eliza Dushku.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Dude, here's a funny thing about both of them: hardcore martial artists. They could actually kick your butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I loved about Eliza Dushku in this movie is she can move. Like she can
She can
dance,
move,
she does
yeah.
martial arts, she picked up the choreography. Kirsten Dunst has an endearing personality.
Yeah.
She was like they shot it very carefully. She was not good at the choreography. She
Mhm.
was super stiff, but she pulled off this role really well where she I think what I really liked about Torrance was that she really believed that the little bubble that she was in was the whole world. She
Yeah.
was so
Yes.
naive, but then at the same time, like her sort of little high school coming of age thing was realizing Big Red stole from this underprivileged school the
Mhm.
routines who were just naturally more talented than them.
Way more talented than
And
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
way more
Yeah.
talented. And can we I'm interrupting myself. Gabrielle Union is the female version in Hollywood of Paul Rudd.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
looks
Like she
exactly the
has
same.
not aged
She was, I
at
think, like
Yes.
all.
27 when she filmed this too. Like she was way older than the
Is
rest
she
of them,
not
and
still
this just
27?
she looks the exact same all the way through. It's
Like I
stunning.
just saw
Yeah.
a picture of her at some like
Hmm.
I don't know what it was, some event, like some film festival, and it was like she looks the same.
Yeah.
She's one of those people that is so pretty that I'm like I would be terrified to see
Yeah.
her in real life because it's too much to handle. She's
Yeah.
so pretty.
Hmm.
But anyways, I love how Tori is open to learning, and even though she's so super naive, like you could tell she's not because when her mom's like, "Oh, all of these stupid basket weaving classes that you're taking, like how do you expect to get into university?" And she's like,
Yeah.
"Fine, I'll take advanced chem." I'm like, "Well, you can't just take
I know. I love that. She was like,
like
"I'll just
how
take
did you
that."
just I mean, obviously she had to have had good grades. You know, she just wasn't focused on it because she was more focused on her athletics, but
Yeah.
so like we get a sense that she's not that dumb, and she does prove to be a good person when you expect the blonde cheerleader to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
But she goes out of her way to try and repair, like try to mend things with the Clovers for her predecessor's mistakes,
She
which
is
is
the
nice. I like that cute moment with her.
she's the
And
polar opposite of me from a phone vibe persona. Like the amount of times that she is randomly on the phone from like other people's houses, I was just like, oh, I can't even watch this. Like I
I'm
would,
like, did she just call long distance on
she
somebody
just,
else's
yeah.
home phone?
I can't even
Yeah.
make phone calls like from my own cell phone these days. I'm like, oh, I don't want to bug people,
But
whatever. She's
not
just
at that
calling
time.
everyone. True.
In 2000, we
True.
had just got rid of like
True.
long distance calling, like it was free.
That's
But
true. But
it was
she's
right
like,
around 98 to 2000 that long distance calls became free.
she's
That's
just
an American
calling
thing. It's
everyone.
still
like,
long distance here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's
maybe for
like
you.
long distance is long distance.
Yeah.
Well, and, not to go off base, but it was so farcical because it doesn't cost anything more for that phone call. That was a
I know,
completely
no.
made up situation
Yeah.
because the lines have been paid for
Yeah.
years ago and mostly paid for by the government. So
Mhm.
that was
Yeah.
complete farce. Anyway, let's go back to this. What I thought was hilarious because totally something that those of us who had phones remember is grabbing the cord and walking away from the table, and all of a sudden the whole thing comes. You
The
got to
yank.
quickly grab it and like hold it up, but you can't let go of the phone. And that cracked me up because that was a very common occurrence in my house.
Yep.
Because as Katie knows from watching me wrap cables at an event, I was the person super anal retentive about the twist in the cord.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't have that one, the one backwards loop and the
Mm.
rest
Oh
of the
yeah.
cord is
In the
straight.
middle. Yeah.
Yo, I always fix that. And my sisters, they just be
You
like
dangle the
twirling and
phone
wrapping
and
up and
untwirl.
talking and hanging it from all kind of weird places and like stepping through the cord. And
Oh.
so what happened is you think you have the regular unwound cord and it would bite and it would like snatch the whole phone or snatch it off the wall kind of thing.
Oh
And so
yeah.
that was funny. And running in, and the brother's like, wait, I got something really important to tell you. And she's like, go away.
And
He says, no,
she
this is important.
trusted him.
Yeah.
That little shit.
Little brother. I am a little brother.
Doc's
Yeah.
like, I live this moment. Yeah.
I must confess
My
my
little
sin.
brother definitely did that. Dear God.
Hmm.
I did it. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh. Yeah. It the phone.
There
Yeah.
were so many moments.
The
So we were
phone.
talking before we logged on how many one-liners from this movie,
Yes.
how many sayings or inflections that we as a society picked up from this movie, similar to Clueless.
Hmm.
like Doc was saying, the shut up.
Yep.
Oh, dude, shut up all the time.
Shut
Shut
up.
up. I see that in
Like
streams
not
all the-
telling a person to be quiet, but when they say something, we
The
now use it
surprised
as
shut
like
up.
an exclamation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like shut up. You know, it's
Oh my God,
exciting.
Yeah. You know what? Another one that I still do to this day, and Katie knows this, she probably doesn't even recognize it, but I didn't recognize it until I saw it. You know when Lindsay Sloan, that's what her name is. You know when Big Red goes,
Yeah.
Platter, Nationals, hello.
Yeah.
I do that hello shit all the time. I
Yeah.
constantly do that. And I didn't realize I got it from this movie, but that is it. I got it from this and King's Tale, where he goes, it's a Lance, hello. Like,
Yeah.
exactly where it came from.
I wonder
And those
how
movies
much-
are at the same time.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that again like comes back to Clueless, which is like had that, because a lot of the expressions that we're saying right now, or the lines, still have that kind of Valley Girl, like I don't know,
San
not
Diego is
twang. That's
Valley
not the
Girl.
right, but like that
I mean, San
vibe.
Diego is Valley Girl, right?
Yeah.
If you think about where
Yeah.
they are at this particular moment in time, that's part of the valley.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah,
it
it
comes
made
from.
sense, but it just popularized it all over the world.
Yeah. It's almost like an
pretty cool.
intelligent vapidness.
Yeah.
It's got an edge to it, but it's very smart, but it's also
It
sassy. I
sounds
don't
like
know.
a ditzy tone
Yeah.
of voice,
Yeah.
but it's not.
But you're
It
not
doesn't
saying-
mean that
It was
you're
very
actually
highbrow and smart, right?
Yeah.
So that was the thing about the Valley Girl swag back in the day. They were smart, intelligent people who went to very prominent schools, but was kind of like sick of being forced academics, and they were trying to find a way to have fun and still be
Active,
smart
yeah.
at the same time. And so that level of intelligent vamp came, and there's an East Coast version of the same thing that's not Valley Girl, but it's always portrayed in the movie. I don't know why. It's always portrayed in the movie as the snappy, dark-haired Jewish girls in all of the movies of this time.
Yep, that's
Like-
true.
That
Yeah.
is
It's just
true.
what it was, right? Like it or not, that's sort of what it was. I definitely say you've been touched by an angel girl. I definitely say that all the time when somebody says something stupid.
I feel like that show would
Oh.
not hold up. I just feel like that. I don't want to rewatch that one. I feel like it would not hold up. It's
I
My ex-girlfriend made me watch this. My recovery has been going well. I've been functioning well for 10 years.
well
That's
done.
I actually
well done.
I really, really I liked this movie at the time. It was fun to me because it was sort of nostalgic, going back to, before big events, and like we would all sleep over somebody's house, and it was no big deal, because everybody had backyards, and we used to all just hang out backyard and practice and sort of eat food and crack jokes and listen to music. I was always on DJ mode back then with 2 radios and the tape player in the middle trying to make tapes. It was
Yeah.
just really funny, and yeah, and again, to Nat's point, one of the other lines that I don't say anymore, but I thought was the best line ever in this movie was, please stop using big words before she chokes on one of them. I just thought that line was super funny.
Oh.
so let's talk about Sparky.
Yeah,
So
I was
he-
gonna say
Oh my
every line
God.
Sparky
Choreography.
says is my favorite.
Well,
Half of
one
them you
that
can't
comes
say, but
One that comes up a lot with Katie is you have weak ankles.
you have weak ankles.
Because-
Yes, yeah.
I'm
'cause I
calling
do.
you out, Katie. You have weak ankles.
Because I really do. Yeah.
Like we'd
Yeah.
be swimming, and she's like, "I have to go back. My weak ankle gave out." So that's
Yeah.
a thing that we say a lot.
Yeah, and likely came from this movie. Yeah, almost every single one of his insults, and again, many of them are like super inappropriate these days, but
Super inappropriate.
but they're
yeah.
just so like his just
It was so funny.
craziness. Actually,
him
though, I
going
will
on Darcy.
him
Oh
going
my
on
God,
everyone.
Him going on Darcy was just
I
brutal.
just every line, like he just like beautifully and viciously rips them apart, and this actor did an incredible job, but in my mind, I still believe this to be Martin Short. And I don't know why. I'm like, this
Yes.
character could have and should have been played by Martin Short because he would have been fantastic in this.
Oh
But
my God, he would
yeah.
have crushed it. Well,
Yeah.
if you ever, there was a problematic TV show that used to be on TLC or something,
okay.
and there was this lady named
Like all of
Abby,
the
and she was this
Yes.
Dance Moms.
Yeah.
Is it called Dance
Yeah.
Moms? Yo,
Mhm.
she was Sebastian. Ice name is not Sebastian. Sparky. She
Sparky,
was Sparky.
Mhm.
She was 100% Sparky.
Yeah.
This is crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the whole this movie is brilliant on so many levels because it's both like the choreography and the dancing and the moves throughout all of it are brilliant by themselves. But then you have kind of the like clueless vibe and dialogue and high schoolness that goes through it. That's again like believable and fun. And you've got a love story, and you have these characters getting to know each other and people from like, from different schools. Like you have a whole bunch of characters, but then there's just so much like wordplay and silliness in it, like slapsticky humor, which I feel like I don't know, maybe we still have in movies today, but it doesn't hit the same way. I don't know what it is, but I'm like yearning for like a good comedy that is this layered, and I just have not found a new one.
We don't have any Sorkin-esque comedies at this moment, but I think they will make a comeback due to the nature of when I look at the word poetry that is the current 14, 15, 16 to 20-year-olds right now, they're pretty good. The thing that cracks me up about them, though, and this will you'll all get a tickle out of, they're using a lot of our words.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they shorten them, and they think that they invented them. And I'm like,
Yeah. I'm like, that's
saying
adorable.
something is a little sus. Yo, we forever said something is suspect. There's actually a song called "Word on the Street is I'm Suspect," right? Like we always say something was suspect, right? They have a whole bunch of terms that they like to use that they think that they made up that are really just shorter versions of what we used to say. So I do believe that because they have become sort of lyrically poetic with their cut downs and things like that, some of it will come back because I think more and more people are letting go of the unnecessary outrage in their demographic. The people just above them are outraged about everything. They'd be outraged about us. And the best line in this movie, no one can ever repeat now. But having done both, being both a dancer and a cheerleader, I know that the majority of my dancer friends thought that about cheerleading. And I'll let you figure it out.
Yeah, we'll let you figure it out. Go back and watch some of Sparky's lines, and but they're so good. And the
I
fact
didn't
that
have
they
the
had to
exposure
spend
to cheerleaders to even think that. So
yeah.
Oh my God.
The fact that they
funny
spend
thing is,
thousands
at
of
this
dollars on
time,
him.
It was a competition. And I'll tell you why. Here's why it was such a crazy competition. Not even at this time, actually still to this day. Once you get to university, cheerleader is a scholarship athletic event, full ride.
Yeah.
In most universities, the dancers, the ones you see on the field at halftime, they belong to the band, not scholarships.
Okay.
Just as smart, just as athletic, far more talented, no scholarship. Or smaller scholarships. Because the cheerleaders are part of the football and athletic department, they have more money. Whereas the dancers are part of the band department, they get less money. So some of them get scholarships. So I shouldn't say, I shouldn't say they don't get. Some do get scholarships, but it's not the same as the ESPN money. Like
no,
a lot
if
of
you go
people
to an
don't know.
art school, you'll get a scholarship. But if you're just going to a regular school that happens to have a dance program, you're not going to get the same treatment.
I don't know
for sure.
if it is now, but just to show up on ESPN was like a guaranteed $2 million for your athletic department. If you go to a bowl game and you lose, it's like 4. If you win, it's like 8. So because of Doritos commercials and how this Matthew McConaughey, you should get yourself a Lincoln. All right. Like that money has to go. Part of it goes to the schools.
I don't know why Matthew McConaughey creeps me out.
You do, because he was in
idea.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's why. He was in,
right, that 80s one.
Yeah.
The
Dude,
one where he
movie.
seemed like I'm kidding, I loved it.
The
but
one where
after
he's
we
not
first
okay and
watched
he
it-
plays it so well that now he's still not okay in your mind for forever.
He was the only one that wasn't doing the overacting 80s horror movie thing.
He was just
played it
creepily
straight.
straight.
And I was just like, I think that's just what he's like.
Maybe.
Like, how many people go missing on set when he does a movie?
I know what we must not forget. Because this was funny, and we used to just do this randomly standing in the mall, like, hanging out at the mall, doing some stupid, going shopping. But remember when they had tryouts and they had to say their lines? Yeah. I'm sexy. I'm cute.
Yeah.
I'm popular to boot. Like, yo, those lines were so freaking
Ingrained.
good. And then the
Oh, the
theater
theater
kid
kid,
wrecked
yeah.
me. Oh my god, he
Like, oh,
absolutely
this
wrecked
isn't an
me.
audition for whatever play. It felt
Pippin.
like,
Pippin. He was trying
Pippin.
to,
It
yeah.
was for Pippin.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was just so
Apparently
good.
the first, like, the whole intro, which ends up being a dream sequence, that whole scene, I guess the I don't know if it was the producers or some team or maybe the studio wanted to cut that entire scene, and the director and the writer fought like really, really hard to keep it in. But the whole time that I was watching, it's been a while since. Yeah, it does. It totally does. But the whole time that I was watching it, I was like, wow, I haven't seen this in a really long time. Like, I had forgotten. Again, we live in like a very like soft fuzzy space right now where I was like, wow, they would never be allowed to say this in a school. Like, I was like, is this what they have like on stage at their school? And then it was ended up being a dream, so it wasn't. But the lines that they say, you're like, wow, all right, we're just gonna cross right over like snarky and right into just like a whole different zone. And I mean, again, that was a dream sequence, but it was amazing, the level of just like cutthroat that those chants are.
Yeah.
The next time you watch these things, watch it again if you ever have to. Anybody who hasn't watched it, when you're at the football game, make sure you're literally listening to the announcer.
Oh yeah, the announcer.
Our next defeat is scheduled for Friday night at 8:00. Like, it's just freaking hilarious,
right? It reminds me so much of Arrested Development. So if you've never seen the TV show Arrested Development, do yourself a favor and watch it. But Arrested Development is the show that you could watch the same episode 45 times in a row and always find something funny because it's that layered. Like there's like silly, weird background things or something there's like some like movement in the back that's hilarious. The things they're saying are hilarious. The deadpanness, like all of it. And you're right. Like that whole announcer scene that I definitely caught this time around, I was like, oh, this is gold. Like I
do feel like the writer had problems or irritated or just had some background stuff going on with the football team from high school.
Yeah.
Because Jazz got spirit. Yes, he do. Jazz got spirit. How about you? Dude, you just lost. And that was like wrecked him. Absolutely freaking wrecked him. And yes, that's pretty savage. Just savage. So he really wrecked the football team on many occasions. And then again, something that might be problematic, but was just funny. Why do all cheerleaders have to go on a diet? Because in cheerleading, we throw people in the air and fat people don't go as high.
Yeah, there
was some reminiscence of the very toxic, like the heroin chic of the 90s.
Yes. Yes.
But the cutting, it's the cutting insulting dialogue, which again plays into, and I was not a cheerleader, so maybe it doesn't, but it I don't know, the notion of these cheerleading teams kind of battling off against each other with these brilliantly cutting lyrics, really. I don't know, I feel like the dialogue played into that really well throughout the movie. Dialogue that had nothing to do, right? Like it was just this I don't know. Yeah, every line had this this slight insult to it.
In the East Coast, I would probably say in the West Coast, there was a thing. Do you remember MTV had a TV show where it was like they cut each other down? They would stand in the corner.
We wouldn't because we didn't get MTV. Okay, but sure.
There's a thing in the East Coast where you used to go your neighborhood, another neighborhood, and you would literally stand on the street corner. You meet somewhere in a neutral territory, and you would take turns with your mama jokes and cut each other down and do things like that.
Mama jokes, right?
Well, the part where you saw the girls from the Clovers doing and they got some snacky stuff to say, the girls used to do that to each other. Right, they would have sort of mini rap battles with each other through hand stomp cadence and stomping their feet. Right, so when that sort of migrated its way into cheerleading became a lot more vicious than just the standard let's go team. They started to introduce themselves and be proud of themselves and things like that. And some of that was taken from the urban culture of the time. And you saw it very much so on ESPN. So yeah, that part is legit real. And it's funny to see it because I remember girls in our neighborhood going to buy black and whites, those Buster Browns, those leather shoes, saddle shoes. That's the words. We call them black and whites.
Yeah.
So crazy.
It's so what I liked about the opening scene, the dream sequence,
Mm.
is that it set up this tone that the movie's not going to be taken too seriously.
Yeah, it's not
that
at all, yeah.
it's tongue in cheek. That the
Mhm.
movie itself is in on the joke of how, like, of the
Ridiculous this
general
is, yeah.
public.
Yeah.
But it's like the general public perception of the Valley Girl and the cheerleader, the high
Mhm.
school cheerleader, you know, like how nobody really took them seriously. But then at the same time, it's showing this wit, this banter, and this high level of athleticism. So I like how that opening scene, and thank God they didn't cut it, because it
Yeah.
really sets up this level of like cheese or fromage, as I would normally say. Katie and I have to say, oh, the fromage in that one.
yeah.
But it set up this level of cheesiness to tell the audience that they're in on this perception and they're in on the joke. And that kind of carries the tone throughout the show, movie, which was great. I really like that.
And you know, it's funny, and again, this was a sort of semi-nostalgic. By the time I was in school, the idea of the airheaded cheerleader was still very
Yeah.
common in
Yeah.
movies and pictures. But in my school, everybody on our squad was borderline Mensa. We had a couple of ding dongs, but for the most part, they were like really, really smart.
Yeah.
And again, that's because at that time, cheering became a collegiate situation, and it was one way to get into school. You know, you can get into college if you can get in on the cheer scholarship. So, you know, like all of my cheerleader friends were all brilliant, right?
Well, this
And I even
does-
think
This
Go ahead.
movie does turn it on its head in a few different ways, right? Because you have the cheerleading team is like the worthwhile team at school. Like the football team is terrible. So they're basically irrelevant and they're made fun of the entire time. And then you also have and no offense to you, Doc, and to our male viewers watching, but there's also like this sort of tone that like the women cheerleaders throughout this are like the kind of smart, somewhat even maniacal characters, where you have Torrance's boyfriend throughout the movie, who's like an idiot. Like he's like this sort of like weird, like he's almost the caricature that most female cheerleaders get all the time, where he's like incapable, kind of slutty,
Stupid.
doesn't like,
I got
stupid.
your door tour.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's very, again, I keep saying the word vapid, but he's very vapid all the way through. Whereas none of the women characters really are. Like they're each they're a version of a stereotype, but there are more of them that are like smart bordering on evil than they are dumb
But you know
bordering
the
on
funny thing
incapable.
about the cantankerous pair?
Yeah.
That still exists everywhere today and in every group. There's still the cantankerous pair that talk smack about every single person.
Yeah.
And the reason why that was funny to me, Nicole Bauderbach or whatever her name is, girl from Cruel Summer, she looks like Stephanie in this movie to me. And so I'm just like, oh, look, Stephanie, come on, let's go.
Shout out to our friend Stephanie, who is definitely in this movie.
Yeah, I meant to tell her that today when I was on her show, but yeah, it's such a really good movie, and I like anything that has Aaron Sorkin-esque dialogue. where
Oh
it's,
yeah,
like,
it does.
quick
Yeah.
and just goes, and like you don't get really into like long drawn out sort of soliloquies or whatever. And one of the best parts of the script, there's not a single word, and that is the toothbrush scene.
The toothbrush
Yes.
scene is so good. I was like, we cannot finish this review without talking about Jesse Bradford, because I am still in love with him. I'm sorry, Dane.
Yeah.
I'm 100% in love with Jesse Bradford. He is like the iconic character in this.
I'm like, yeah, I didn't forget, but kind of forgot that my crush for Jesse Bradford is still so real.
Oh, so real. Yeah.
And it's funny because it's a topic of conversation on Book Talk. So on the book side of TikTok, that a lot of husbands or boyfriends are reading, I guess what you call chick lit or romantasy, to see what the girls are reading, which I'm like, I love that we have to gender our fiction when we write it. But when men write the worst version of it, it's called literature. Anyway, whatever. That's not the point. The point is there's the lopsided smirk. He smirked on one side, or it's like his dimple showed on the right, and the guys, you see guys on Book Talk trying to figure out how that works. Jesse Bradford.
Jesse Bradford.
Jesse
Jesse Bradford does it.
He has that endearing slash mocking slash makes you want to hit him and kiss him, like one-sided smirk that he does. God, that kid is so cute.
He is.
You know, my favorite Jesse movie is Swim Fan, which is a really
Fan,
stupid movie.
yes.
But
We should
I
totally
just
watch
like the
Swim
movie.
Fan. Yeah.
And I was teasing Emma about that because her being a competitive swimmer. Now I always tease her about Swim Fan. But yeah, that's the other thing I remember him from other than this.
He's in Hackers.
He was in Hackers.
Yeah.
Oh
He's
yeah,
in,
Hackers. That's right.
He's in a lot.
He
Actually,
was much
like
younger in Hackers.
he's in a lot of things that are unassuming. But so here is my ode to Jesse Bradford as Cliff in this movie. I think that he is fantastic because he's the new kid. He is the sort of like foil to his sister who like comes in and kind of joins this team, whatever. He's both like lovable but no nonsense, and he does not at all change who he is or what he thinks or like how how he exists. He like stands up for himself, and he makes her a mixtape, which I think is just the most like 90s slash early 2000s ever. Can we bring back the mixtape, please?
Like even if you're sending me a mixtape, but it's like a Spotify playlist, like do that.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
Mixtape.
Do you know why I always hated that terminology? And this is super funny because I actually know how to mix. So mine were actually mixed. With everybody else's mixtape were songs that stopped and then the next song came. I just had like little blend and we would actually spend time to mix it. So
that's because we were recording it off the radio.
Yeah,
we
were
had recording boombox and you'd hit play and record. So we'd record the songs off the radio onto a blank tape.
No, trust me, I made it that way too, but then I learned how to actually mix.
Yeah.
I started DJing when I was a junior in high school. And yeah, it was a trip. So at that time, I didn't always have everything on turntables. So when we would pull off the radio was a real gigantic reel-to-reel. And we would record it on a reel-to-reel and literally take a razor blade and cut it at a diagonal and put the two pieces in. So the terms that we use in Logic or any editing program, we literally did that with a razor blade and tape back then. But amazing. I used to make actual mixtapes. And towards the end, make mix CDs, right? And it was just the thing. And I just thought it was super funny because anybody who's in the DJ game, they will understand. Those of us who actually made mixtapes hated when other people would call them mixtapes because y'all wasn't mixing, y'all was stealing songs.
Cover your ears for a second then, Doc, because it was so pure.
Yeah.
A playlist of songs that you make when you're thinking about the person you give it to.
100%.
And this one was
that's the swoon.
This one was 1,000 times better because this was a song because he wrote himself because he's this like musician and he's fantastic in this movie. But that moment actually probably rivals for me the toothbrush scene. So there's two scenes, one that Doc mentioned earlier where Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Bradford's characters, who are clearly into each other, are brushing their teeth in like weird, flirty, quiet, but like silliness for like 5-ish minutes. Like they're competitively brushing their teeth quietly, which is glorious. And then I would say the sort of balance to that in this movie, maybe not balance, but like the other side of that I love is, so he drops off this bouquet and a mixtape and he's all upset because he finds out she's got a boyfriend and he leaves, and she goes in and plays this mixtape. And it's this very pure, like I would have done this in high school moment where she's like upset, but she listens to the tape and it's like completely adorable. And he's like talking on it and then sings to her and she's jumping and like dancing on her bed. And you're like, I believe this to be a 16-year-old. Like I just like, it's so like you can feel the like innocence and yet like the excitement and the butterflies and like I don't know, there's something great about it. Yeah. The rapid change of emotions.
Rapid change of emotions.
And she plays it brilliantly. Like Kirsten Dunst is a phenomenal actress. And she's been acting since she was like old enough to stand, but she plays this role so very well because even though she is not a cheerleader and she can't dance, as Nat said, she's got like the high school, like eager, wants to please, wants to find herself, is like in this, all she wants to do is lead this team. That's like what she's been working for her whole high school career. And she plays it really, really well, I think. But that scene, I feel like is her I don't know, her perfect moment in the movie, and all because of Jesse Bradford, in my opinion, all because of his character.
I also need to say that I'm super happy the Clovers win
Yes,
the
Yes.
Nationals.
Yes.
I like
You know
they
what?
finally got their dues.
I forgot for a moment. I was like, oh no, do they lose? Because they are way better than this other team.
Well,
Yeah.
I think at the time it was so shocking to us because we didn't expect that. And again, I think here's the thing: these things automatically get clowned off as just funny or just a cheerleader movie or just another teen movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, allowing the inner city team to win, not allowing, they deserved it,
Yeah.
but no funny business, no shadiness,
Yeah.
allowing them to have an upper hand, even allowing Gabrielle to have just as high a what's the thing, marquee
Yeah.
as Kirsten Dunst at the time. Most of these things were still semi unheard of at the time. And they were they were coming of age for the industry, not just another coming of age movie. This was a coming of age for the industry. Outwardly gay kids in high school, coming of age at the time,
Yep.
right?
I
Gay
do
and
love that
straight
there's
kids that can interact together and not hate each other, and there's not a fight or whatever. Like they're literally best of friends. Jan and oh my God, what's Hunter Ritter's kid's name? I forget. Maybe Josh. Anyway, the fact that they could be best of friends and one straight and one gay, and there's no weirdness, and like again, this was all coming of age for the industry at the time, completely unheard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. The one thing that detracted a little for me from that was the use of the 3-letter F word, which I was like, even then was not okay.
Yeah.
At least here, that was never okay.
Well, no,
in
in the
my
U.S.
lifetime.
it still was
So-
very, unfortunately, at that time in the U.S., it still was very common,
It was common.
and it hadn't gone away. Now, at the time, though,
Yeah.
I would So here's what I thought when I first hit that. That's his name. When I first hit that, why it sort of bothered me. At the same time, I kind of understand where it was. In my group of friends at that time, I was doing a lot of stuff in the community and, working at what would be called a gay club and supporting pageants. We used to have a trans pageant here called the Golden Goddess. And at that particular time, it was similar to us in hip hop. We're going to use the word because it deletes the sting when someone that's not in hip hop says it. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just like at that time, if you listen to all female songs were very heavy with the bitch because they were retaking back the word. Melissa Etheridge dropped an entire album by the name 4 years later.
Yeah.
Right. It's like so the desensitizing the words by using it ourselves and using it as a term of endearment was also kind of a thing.
Yes.
And that pretty much ran until a couple years ago when everybody was like, listen, we need to make this stop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that because back in the day, I was considered a
hag.
hag.
Yeah.
The kids don't even know what a hag is anymore. They're like, "Oh, you're an ally." I'm like, "That not really." Like, yes,
No.
obviously,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I'm like,
But also no. Yeah.
I'm a hag. Like, if I go to a drag club, they're gonna recognize. They'll smell it in the air. You know, like it's.
Yeah.
Anyways, but it's. Yeah, so I understand using it in the community, and that I was always okay with. But the way it was used in the movie, it was like one of the football players.
Yeah, it was
said
an insult,
to
yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the straight male
100%.
cheerleaders. I was like, no, dude, no.
Yeah.
And so I think
My dude.
I think at that time, like Hollywood still hadn't. They thought they're going to get away with it, but I don't think they realized it stung as bad as it did at the time.
No.
And
No.
again, it's just one of those things like this was really dumb, and I didn't realize this until maybe mid 2010s when something would break or something would not go your way or like this event get canceled because of rain. We would often say, oh, that's gay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was not intended to be a slur towards anybody on that side of the rainbow, but that was just what we said. And it was super stupid. And one day, like a friend of mine called, he's like, you still say that, and I know you know better, and I know you're on our side, but you say that reflectively as a hetero. And I'm like, say what? And then he said it. And I go, I didn't say that. He goes, no, dude, you literally just said it. We got stuck in traffic and we were on our way to something that we only had 15 minutes. And then it turned out to be like just a really dumb traffic incident because somebody hit a pole. And I was like, oh man, this is so gay. And he was like, you said it again. I'm like, said what? Like, I didn't even realize I kept saying it.
Yeah.
And then after my friend brought it to my attention, like, I was like, oh, I literally have to physically remove this from a vocabulary because it was just something that we said back in the day.
Yeah.
that
I
you just don't
remember
say them.
when that happened with my brother, he said that, and because it was commonplace and it wasn't meant derogatorily to any like type of person,
It just wasn't even thought
Yep.
about.
as you
yeah.
said. And one of our really close friends who is gay was like, Andrew, are you trying to fight me? Like what the heck? He's like, why would you say that? And my brother was and he was saying it to just sort of make fun of my brother in such a way to point out, like, we don't do that anymore. And my brother's like, oh my God, I didn't even think of it like
Yeah.
that.
What?
But yeah,
And I
he was
get
like
that. It was so
immediately like,
crushing.
okay, delete. Like he was like,
Yeah.
oh God. He's like,
It's
we've been friends
so
since I was
crushing.
born.
Yeah.
We,
Yeah.
used to, and we always said that, and anything else that you just thought didn't work right, you would say, "Oh, this is hard," and it's like that's so hard, or you're being such a hard, and like you
Yeah.
can't wait, and it's like no, that was just the terminology. It was not intended to be harmful to anyone, and then so
But
it's
now
really
we
weird.
realize it's actually
Now
a medical denotation of a certain level of intelligence.
Yes,
But I mean,
yes.
so is imbecile and so is dumbass. Those were
Mhm.
actual medical definitions for levels of intelligence.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
still say a lot of them,
We do.
but
Yeah.
We're getting there.
times will
We're getting
change.
We're getting there.
there. Or go backwards.
I will say the one to play slight devil's advocate, and maybe I shouldn't even say this, but the way in which the football player, like toxic masculinity high school guy, says that and like throws that out at someone else is almost because of how they've set up the entire movie and sort of the role reversals of the characters.
Yeah,
It's
it makes
almost
him look
more
worse.
it's almost more insulting to the characters saying it. I think the movie would have been
Yeah.
fine without them doing that because I don't think that they were like supportive enough of gay characters in this movie to get away with it, but I do think that maybe at the time that's why they thought that would be, because they had set up a number of
Because it
times.
wasn't as bad.
Well, they had set up
Yeah.
a number of times saying that that the cheerleaders basically were quote unquote, and this is not even great in itself, but that they were like cooler because they had access to all of these women, right? So it was like the football players were like being ridiculous because they were terrible at what they were doing, and the cheerleaders had all the power and had all the women and had all the moments. So yeah, I don't know. I heard it and I think it's a sign of just how far we've come, and I feel good that it bothered me as much as it did, but I heard it come out and I was just like, ugh, like it felt like someone being stabbed. So
Even then, I'm like, a straight person saying that was a no.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was still like, that was kind of the cusp of when we really started to, like Doc had said, like we started to become more aware of toxic masculinity, and we started to become more aware of gender identity and how just our society as a whole, like as a patriarchy, was very dangerous to people, to their mental health, to their physical health, etc. So I'm glad we're changing.
Yeah. Pride Month.
Woo!
We're behind. So just for everyone keeping up, Pride movies are coming. We thought we'd get on track, and then now we're off track again. So I promise you they're coming. We're just delayed because we're in sleepover slumberland girl movie.
We have to do scores because I have to take turn to karate class, and so she can beat up some people and not me.
All right. So what? So I didn't ask anyone before I got there. What were your votes?
Oh, this is 5 spirit sticks all day, every day.
Spirit sticks.
Yeah.
This is 5 spirit
Agreed.
fingers.
All right. Well, I'm not
Again,
I'm
much
not
like
fancy enough
Clueless.
to-
Yeah, much like Clueless, it had a cultural impact on our language. It brought awareness to athleticism as opposed to stereotypes in cheerleading and other female gendered sports. Five spirit
Well, here,
sticks.
close your eyes, everyone.
Taters.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes now. Open your eyes. There we go. We're 5. 5 potatoes. 5 potatoes. This was so fun. This time went by so fast. Thanks for sharing all of your experiences, Doc. This was 5 and 5.
Even watching it later, I had to make it like add the clovers and everybody, Even watching it years later, it's funny to me like how much stuff still relates to my days. And I think the funny thing about it is something I never would have experienced had I not blown out my knee in summer of junior year. And then, but I just wanted to stay with my crew and go to all of the games. And then one of CJ was like, my neighbor said, why don't you guys just join this cheer squad? And at first, we had the same idiotic knee-jerk reaction. No freaking way. And it's like, what? Everyone knows you in school and knows your reputation. What? They're going to think you're gay? And I was like, yeah, not a chance. So it's like, all right, then let's go. and it became, and you know what I'm saying? So it's really funny that even then, knowing full well, that was my first reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you how dumb we were at the time.
There is a stigma, I think. So I'm glad that movies like this push the boundaries and made it really tongue in cheek. And again, we didn't talk a lot about it in this review. Maybe we can follow up or share some additional insights later. But I mean, I think like everything that the actresses playing the Clovers did like an incredible job there as well. Like, so I think it pushed the boundaries in a few different ways at a time where it wasn't like as cool to push the boundaries. So I'm proud of this movie. I think I think it does stand pretty well today. So I think it was.
And you just gotta love the name Janelope. That was so good.
It's so good. It's so good.
Such good names.
Well, Josh says four taters because he has not seen it in 23 years. Yeah, Josh, it had been a while since I watched this one, and it was a really fun rewatch. So grab a copy. Paul says he's gay, so you don't have to be, Doc. Paul's got us covered. We're all right. We'll hang out here. Paul, we have to have you on. You get to pick your favorite Pride movie because we're behind. We're taking Pride right into the end of July, maybe even to August. So we're just
good. I am so in for
movies.
Tu Wong Fu. I freaking love that movie.
Yeah.
I love John Leguizamo. Like he is literally one of my favorite people ever.
That one's on our list.
Yes,
And we haven't
we
done that
adore
one yet.
him.
Yeah.
Little our Tybalt.
Yeah.
Well,
this-
oh God, I remember that.
This, I believe, and I'm not looking at YouTube, but this wraps up our Slumber Party
It
series,
does.
and we're into Ruthless People, which Nat didn't think we'd do, but I watched the movie, so we're gonna do it next week. So we're there, and it's a good one. It's a really
And I
good
think that any movie with Bette Midler is considered a Pride movie.
It's a Bette Midler just carries
Facts.
that with her.
Absolute
Somebody
fact.
tell me otherwise, but I'm like, Bette Midler is
True
Pride.
story. True.
Much
story.
like Cher or
100%.
Dolly.
Oh my
Facts are
gosh.
facts.
All right, well, Doc needs to jump, so we should say huge thank you to our live studio audience for hanging out with us. If you want to hang out with us in the future, we record this most Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube. You can find all the details on our website, the VHSClubPod.com. And leave us a voicemail. Let us know what movie to watch next. Let us know your thoughts and feelings. Or like Doc, come join and share your favorite movies. Thanks for hanging out, Doc.
There you go. And just remember, I know you feel a little awkward because you have underwear up your butt right now, but it's a whole lot better than landing on your face.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, on those words, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Three fingers.
Kidnapped